So we collect stories and circulate life-changing wisdom. I'm your host, Asher, and our guest today is Jennifer Anderson. And we get to talk about our themes today around victory. We get to celebrate with Jennifer today, with Jen today, actually. So when we go with your name, we'll get to celebrate with Jen today about her victory, something she's been working on for a while that she get deployed in the world now. So we get to talk about that. So Jen, if you don't mind telling us where you're hailing from, what you specialize in, who you've been a hero to, when you had invited to the world.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you for having me. This is awesome. I'm originally from New York, so I'm going to apologize in advance. I'm going to try not to talk too quickly, but it's going to happen. And I currently live in Los Angeles, where the sun hates us all. It is just super bright and lovely. And my family back in New York is like, oh yeah, no, we survived the snowstorm. I'm like, okay.
Mm.
So yeah, so that's where I'm at right now. I actually have several jobs. One of them, I created a title for myself. I'm a professional imperfectionist.
Mm.
And what that means is I'm a productivity slash perfectionism coach. And also I have just launched an app called Accomplist. It's designed to help people to stop trying to do so much and to stop beating themselves up over not getting more done. Because, we're all gloriously imperfect and we keep striving for more and more and then hate ourselves for not being more. So, I
Mm.
figure your to-do list, it's something that's with you all day. So it's a way to kind of like retrain your brain while you're not paying attention.
Mm. Well, first, I want to say congratulations to you for launching your app. I know that's a lot of work. I was thinking about something that for myself, but then I was like, oh man, that's so much work, so much work. So congratulations to you.
Thank you. Yes, it all over the place because there's just so many ways to make a business happen.
Mm.
And originally I was promoting it on all these podcasts because it was taught, I had a partner who was working on it allegedly. And the app ended up not happening after I spent months on podcasts saying, oh, it'll be out in just a couple of months. And mortifyingly, embarrassing, but whatever. But with those podcasts, I got sucked into the whole ecosystem of coaching.
Hmm.
And so I ended up thinking, all right, well, I can fund it by coaching. And that was part of it because I used to design software. I was a systems analyst for 13 years back in the day. I'm a veteran of the dot-com years.
Hmm.
And so, I reached out to some people and they said, oh, it'll take like 1,000 hours. It'll cost you, this many tens of thousands of dollars. And I was like, really?
Hmm.
Oh, okay, let me figure out. And I looked into getting investors. And then I just decided I didn't want to
Hmm.
because, if you get investors, then your entire life for the next couple of years is all focused on getting the company to be profitable so that you can
Hmm.
pay them back. And yeah, I wanted to half-ass this. I didn't want to have to. I'm also a freelance writer. I do other stuff. I didn't want to make this a 10-hour day job. So I decided, nope, okay, no. And then I just happened to find a staffing company that
Hmm.
only accepts like the top 3% of the programmers. So I was able to hire with confidence and get her built.
Yeah. And now accomplice is out there with the world, being our own accomplice.
That is right. Stop being a perfectionist, be an accomplished. And
Mm.
the whole thing is just focus on your accomplishments and what you've gotten done because we think of everything that we wanted to do and haven't done yet. And so what? Think of everything you did do. There's one exercise that I didn't think of, but I tell everyone to do it called a reverse bucket list,
Mm.
where you make a list of 50 or so things that you have done in your life. And guaranteed, a lot of the things on that list are things that other people wish they could do.
Wow.
So, yeah,
That's worth
just doing it
celebrating.
myself.
Yes, yes,
Yes,
yes.
just doing it myself. I was like, wow, okay. All the careers I've had, and I was a volunteer EMT, and I lived in France for a while, and like good stuff that I was just like, yeah, whatever, because to me, I did it. It's not impressive.
Hmm. It's that thing is, for something that, we all fall trapped to this, like the thing that you really want, like you're so excited about getting it, but then once you get it, then what? It's just something you have now. And you're just like, okay, what's the next thing to get? And we never really sit back and think about, the thing that you say you want, like what you're gonna do it once you have it. Because oftentimes I think that's what we find we don't really like appreciate what we have because you like for example, you want a husband or you want a wife. Well, what are you gonna do with that wife or husband once you have that person? But you just want it because everybody's have it. But you don't think about like what are you gonna do with that thing once you have it, right? And that comes back to now, once I have it, I want to make sure I'm grateful for it, I appreciate it, I do this thing with it, I do that with it, I treat it this way, so forth and so on. Then that gotta come in play, and then you start appreciating what you have. But that don't happen a
Absolutely.
lot.
Yes, yeah. There's an old joke that the first time I got married, it was to prove to my mother that I could.
Mm.
It's now that I am an old married lady, I kick myself because I didn't enjoy being single that much because I so much did not want to be single.
Hmm. Yeah, but it's
And
interesting when we come back to even because the victory days are on really, really showing the gratitude and appreciation for accomplishing something.
mhm,
And oftentimes people love to be reinforced, like those victories, love to feel reinforced. Like somebody can reinforce them in their life, like, hey, you launched an app. And that took a lot of work. You said three
yeah,
years working on that thing. Tell me about the journey.
yeah. And the thing is too is that anything that you try to do, you end up being surrounded by people who have done it or who have done it. Like when I was a volunteer EMT, you got made fun of if you bragged that, oh, I saved a life once because everyone there had.
Mm.
But
Humility,
you know,
humble.
it right. Well, that's the thing. It's like, yeah, we do that. And sometimes you can't. But yeah, with the whole journey, it's just the whole idea of the app that started um, when I was looking for a to-do system or app myself. And because I'm a freelancer, so my schedule is, how much I have to work varies. And I can use some of the extra time to network, reach out to new writing clients, that kind of thing, or potential writing clients. But I want a system that would show me exactly what my week looked like. Every all these repeating tasks. And do I want to do networking on LinkedIn every day? Well, I did want to do networking on LinkedIn every day, but if I only did it 2 days a week, that's still something. And instead, I thought, oh no, that's not good enough. So, and also I get migraines. So some days I just no, it's not happening. So a lot of times, especially the small things that I want to do daily, get skipped. And that's okay. If anyone else, and it's becoming more in the public awareness now with the long haul COVID that, yeah, no, sometimes you're sick. Sometimes you just can't. And it is what it is. So what I did was in this app, you can mark tasks skipped, which is my favorite thing because not getting to everything is just a part of life. And so yeah, being able to mark something skipped and okay, yeah, not doing that today, and that's okay.
Hmm.
And there's also a delegated status because people tend to forget that you can delegate things. And I used apps where if you don't do something, then it'll show up, I had a due date, it'll show up on the next day. But if it's something that repeats every single day, and you skip a day, then it will show up as bright red and overdue on today's list. And no, it's okay. I don't need that. I don't need to click, yes, I did it on a day that I didn't do it just to make it go away. So, yeah, I don't, Accomplice doesn't treat repeating tasks that way.
Hmm.
Things will show up. Daily repeating, no, because it'll be a brand new one the next day. But, if I had something due yesterday that I didn't do and it'll show up today, but it won't be bright red and obnoxious and punitive and making me feel like garbage
Well,
because we don't need
for for
that.
for those who listen, I haven't seen your app completely. I saw it, looked it up, but I haven't really used it. But I was thinking about what you're saying about the task thing because oftentimes I think even though we have a list of things to do, sometimes people still don't do them. And it becomes a real challenge when you're like, I can organize your week for you right now, tell you what to do, but still people get paralyzed by the doing piece of it. So is this a tool that's gonna reinforce the doing piece or just the tracking piece? How does that work?
Well, it's going to reinforce doing because it's going to make tracking easier.
Mm.
So you're not flailing around going, what should I be doing? And which is most important? And it generates a to-do list for you. And for some people who have ADHD, they need to put down repeating tasks like take a shower, eat lunch, make lunch. I'm one of those people that I will forget to make lunch until I'm ravenous. even though I
Mm.
have two alarms on my phone saying, no, no, seriously, it's lunchtime.
Hmm.
So having those on having those habits on your to-do list can help keep you on track so you're not worrying about other things that you've forgotten. And I call it your small picture list. We have our big picture list, everything that we want to do, all our goals, our dreams, our wonderful things that we're going to accomplish. And then we think, we completely forget that we have to make dinner. And so
Hmm.
we think we have more free time today than we actually do because we got to brush our teeth. We have to, do stuff. We got to call mom, and God knows how long that's going to take. So, these are all important things too, including resting. So, but by just having it in a way that you can, all right, it's there. Okay, this it's telling me what I need to do once I've set it up, and I can just follow that. And there is a daily view that it generates for you, a weekly view, if you want that. There's also a built-in habit tracker, actually. So if something is repeating daily, you can mark it as a habit, and then you can just
Mhm.
go look at it's just a little report. It shows you, which days that you did it, and if you didn't, that's fine. It's so that's okay too. There's
I
no
can
like a streak or oh no, I was doing it for 10 days in a row and then I skipped and so I've blown my streak. No, 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 none of
Mhm.
that. No pressure.
What I could tell so far is that like this tool or the system you created is it was born out of your own frustration, it seems like, from trying different things and trying to figure things out for yourself. And you mentioned ADD, which is a lot of time, oftentimes people are in that kind of already those symptoms, right?
Mhm.
Have difficulty organizing, tracking things. And this was born under your frustration, then how has it changed your life so far using this system here?
It would have been a lot easier to get the app made if I'd had the app to track everything I had to do. I've been saying that for a while. It's fantastic because, I know it's there. And if it's a migraine day or, yesterday I went to the DMV to renew my driver's license. And so, it took a little time and a lot of energy. So, I knew the few things I absolutely had to do. And I didn't even open up the app because I knew, okay, these are a couple things that I need to do today. And then I can just, spend the rest of the day focusing on the driver's license and all that and recovering from going to the DMV. And I know that the app is not going to be beating me up today. When I open up and look at my list, it's not like, oh, you jerk, you didn't do this and that. It's no, I did the things, and I can go back to yesterday's list and mark them done if I want to. But
Hmm.
it's like I did what I absolutely needed to do, and it's very helpful because I'll look at it and I have things split up into different lists, different ways to grow my email list and ways to promote the app and coaching and my freelance writing and all those sorts of things. And I look at it and it's, oh, yeah, yeah, I was meaning to do that for that client. And it's in there. So it's not nagging in my head. Or I have all these ideas of things like read PDF from such and such. I'm like, okay, I'm not sure. I don't even remember what that is. If I can't find it in my email, then it's going skipped. But
Hmm.
there's all these ideas that, brainstorming that, okay, these are ways that I could promote the app and get the word out and or grow my email list and things like that. And it's just all these ideas are just in a to-do list without necessarily a due date yet. And it's fantastic because there's no longer post-its everywhere and little pieces of paper that got lost. It's right now as we speak, there is actually a post-it on my laptop, and there's
Hmm.
actually a couple on the underside as well, but it's mostly in the app. And
Hmm.
the post-its are mostly when I'm in book club. Someone recommends a book, and I'll also scribble it down on a post-it.
Hmm. So how do you partner this tool with like a calendar? Because when I was thinking about it, so I was like, okay, so calendar will tell you what's coming up and what you need to focus on, but then the to-do list also tells you what you need to do, but doesn't really like give you like projected, okay, in the next 90 days I'm gonna do all these things. Like how does like I'm trying to figure out how does the thing work out alongside a calendar situation?
Yes. Well, someday I think it will integrate automatically, which
Hmm.
should be cool. But right now, it's that, if you work for a company full time,
Hmm.
you go in, you're there, you're in the boat, you're just, whatever. So you do whatever you have to do. And those 8 hours that I'm in the office is when I'm doing these things. But for your stuff outside of work, and if you're a freelancer and you have more control over your schedule, it's comes down to time blocking.
Mm-hmm.
I think you've have like your different chunks. In before lunch, I'm on the couch on my iPad working from there. And so it's things that I can do from the iPad. Then after lunch, it's sitting up at the laptop. So it's things that are more typing related. And so for me, that's how I sort it. For other people, it might be I'm going to work on this client in the morning and that project in the afternoon, and take breaks. Taking breaks in between is absolutely a wonderful and important part of the process. But it's depends on how what works for you is the thing. If it's just that I have all these things I want to do or need to do, and I just have an hour after work to do it, then that's when you're opening up your app and looking. If
Mm-hmm.
it's more that, yeah, I'm a freelancer, I can do whatever, I've got this whole long day ahead of me. What am I doing? Well, what works for you? What takes the most energy? When is your energy highest? Do the things, maybe, if you're putting off something, just do it and get it over with. Because there's in our heads, there's so many things like, oh, I can't do all those other things because I got to do this other thing first. And I haven't done this other thing in a while. You don't have to do that other thing. Or you can do it and get it over with. But maybe that other thing, you don't want to do that. You're procrastinating that thing, and all these other things are getting pushed behind. So, yeah, it could be that, all right, I'm going to go for a run at lunchtime every day. And you keep putting that off. And turns out you're not even taking lunch because you don't want to run. And so, not working for you. I think with our schedules and our calendars, they're always changing.
Mm-hmm. Well, you mentioned that you was a fan of the 70s and 80s, I believe. So I'm curious to how you say you've done plenty of jobs so far over your life. So what have been one of the most fun things that you've done as a profession that just really worth celebrating as well?
Oh my gosh. I'm one of my freelance writing clients is a company called Plus by Design, Vicky V. They do plus size clothing,
Hmm.
and I write a blog for them. I write copy, and product descriptions and other things, and manage their Facebook. But the main thing I do is write a blog for them every week. And
Mm.
my whole thing, my whole whatever, it's helping people to stop beating themselves up, to feel better about themselves. And my whole philosophy with selling plus size clothing, it's not to make the customer feel bad. It's
Mm.
not to say this style will hide things, mitigate your hips and make your stomach look smaller. It's like, no, 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 no. What makes you look too big is clothes that don't fit you properly, clothes that are
Mhm.
too tight, that because they're not shaped as you are. So it's very much, there's nothing wrong with your body. It's just that women's bodies come in so many different shapes that not every style is your new best friend, and that's fine.
Mm.
And, I keep hearing from customers that, it's life-changing for them, that it's really help them to stop feeling bad about themselves. And so it's like mission accomplished,
Mhm.
even, if it's one or two people, it's probably more, but then it affects the people in their lives because their kids and their grandkids aren't seeing them complaining about their hips or whatever. So it's just like, being imperfect, allowing yourself to be imperfect and make mistakes and being okay with it, that gives other people permission to be okay with their mistakes.
Mhm.
So, that's the thing. It's just sending out ripples into the world. You might not even see the results, but results will happen.
Mm. And why is making people feel better with themselves so important to you?
Oh, God, decades of therapy. I think that's definitely part of it. Fourth therapist is the charm. Um, that's the thing. That's something that really helped me is that, and realizing and discovering that I'm not always the one in the wrong.
Mm.
And, being a woman in technology 20, 30 years ago wasn't great. And, it took me going on Twitter, 10 years ago with, the kids these days talking about misogyny in the workplace. And I was like, oh, okay, that wasn't me. I wasn't doing something wrong. It was that the other person was being a jerk.
Mm.
Oh, I feel so much better because, you know, as someone from a dysfunctional family, I'm all, grew up trained to think, all right, how can I make the situation work? How could I have done this differently? So next time I can do it. Like walking across a landmine, but the landmines are your parents.
Mm,
It's okay. How am I going to not set them off? And, a lot of people do that. And, in that situation, and then they become perfectionists. And even once you're out of that trauma situation, you're still, I have to be perfect. And your brain is just trained to jump on you every time you make the slightest mistake because someone does and your parents loved you. So, of course, if you love yourself, you're going to beat yourself up for not being perfect. And that's not how that works. And realizing that has done so much good for me.
mm,
And, one thing that really did change my life, aside from all the therapy, was um, the fat acceptance movement. And back in 2008, we had, so many more options in clothing than we
mhm,
ever had before. And there's all these people writing about, this is your body, it's fine, and learning about the Minnesota starvation experiment, which, long story short, it has been scientifically proven that your diet is not going to work less long term, and it's going to drive you crazy while you're at it.
mm,
So, it's to actually learn the science and just to be okay with it, because I am of the generation where our mothers felt like garbage about their own weight and pass that
mm,
on to us. And it is what it is. Therapy is not a new thing. I mean, the 70s were um full of self-help books,
mm,
but so it's almost like, yeah, well, there's no excuse. Why didn't they, start improving themselves? But they didn't know any better. It was the 70s, it was the 80s. No one was paying attention. It was, it's just it was what it was. And it's wonderful that now that we're working very hard to break the cycle,
mm,
with our own kids. And yeah, I think the generations after mine are in much better shape as far as kindness and mental health.
mm. If I had to ask you, well, thank you for sharing that, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about what might be like, what is the thing that you're most happy about right now in your life?
In my whole life, um, my marriage, actually,
Mm.
because of the crazy upbringing, that I have a happy marriage. It's fantastic. Yay me. I mean, fortunately, I was so messed up that I didn't make any of my bad choices in my 20s stick. So I
Mm,
didn't get married until my mid 30s, when I was, making better choices. So that, it's just luck. But I mean, I even sold a personal essay about how my marriage is boring and I love it because, I know, okay, we're going to sit down and we're going to watch some TV tonight. There's no, okay, I walk into the room and there's a big argument going on. Nothing, things go as planned. And when something doesn't go as planned, then okay, we'll readjust. But, being from New York, very, very intense people, and my husband is a mild-mannered Midwesterner. And the Midwesterners can be passive aggressive to the point that, oh, but it's also nice. It's just we don't argue, because anytime, when I would get mad early on, he would think, oh, yeah, no, she has a point.
Mm,
I'm like, yeah, but I'm also being a jerk about it. You should yell at me for that part. And so I really had to, not be a jerk and
mm,
retrain myself that way. Yeah, it's nice. My brother and I are, high-fiving each other that we actually have functioning marriages.
mm. That's not a that's a what you call it? That's a elusive thing in America these days. A lasting functioning marriage, because oftentimes folks get separated because the commitment is not there, Like I wouldn't sit around and wait for you to like figure your stuff out. I'm just gonna move on, right? That's the kind of the mentality right now. It's like I'm not gonna sit here and watch you like do what you gotta do, and I'm feeling the pain from it. So hey, I'm not here for it. It's a little depressing too, to think about it sometimes. But I understand
Well,
because oftentimes we just don't have the skills or the tools, or we haven't worked on that commitment muscle that long to kind of stay through the trial and tribulation.
yeah, exactly. And the thing is, it can be a good thing.
Mm.
because, growing up in a household with parents fighting all the time, it's like growing up in a war zone. As far as stress levels, it's like right below living in an
Uh-huh.
actual war zone. So, yeah, it's not great. And, even if there aren't kids involved, you're not making each other better people. You're bringing out the worst in each other,
Mm-hmm.
possibly. And, maybe one person just has to grow. And, it's for example, my mother is from a large family, and one of my uncles um was got divorced and got remarried and had a kid, so much younger than the other ones that she actually has nieces who are older than she is.
Mm.
And the thing is that the father that she got is not the father that the older three got.
Mm.
And it's not fair, but it is what it is. It's we can't say that because, he wasn't the greatest dad um for with his first marriage doesn't mean that he is still a garbage father later on, and oh, his poor kid. It's no, he's grown. He's a different partner, and he's a different person, and great for her. But that also doesn't mean that the older three have to be really happy about the situation. But it's yeah, it is frustrating because especially when there's grandkids and you know parents are very grandparents are very different from parents in the same people.
Mm.
And it's like, why are you getting your head together now that you're 70 and I've been through four therapists? It's like it's far after the time that I could have done me any good. And to stay in a bad marriage, um yeah, sometimes commitment and working on it together works. And you know sometimes it's just not going to happen, and you have to not torture yourself.
Mm. Well, thank you for sharing again.
Mm.
And you brought something up for me. I was celebrating with another friend this week too about something that she recognized about her parents. I think her parents had her when she was like early 20s.
Mhm.
And then she just right now in her late 20s recognized what her parents was going through. Then she was saying that, oh, I thought my mom didn't really love me like she loved my other sibling. But then she recognized, well, mom had me when she was really young, and then she wasn't really like knowing herself that well at that time either. But now when they get to talk when they're both older, and it was like, well, this is the reason why I was like this because I was just young too. I didn't know exactly how to be a mom then. And I gave you what I could afford to give you based on what I know. And then now that she understands, she's like, okay, I feel better because most of her life she felt like her parents didn't really love her like that. Her mom didn't love her like that. So it definitely makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, and also, us firstborns break in the parents. We teach them how to be parents, and so there's so as the kids go, third, second, third, whatever. Yeah, no, the parents are just out of energy, and they've learned what they can let go, as opposed to everything. No one must touch the child,
Hmm.
and now it's just like, oh yeah, all right, fine, feed them dirt. I don't,
Hmm.
you just, they need to be taught.
So going
It's
back to
once
your
go ahead.
Yeah, so going back to your app, so we can kind of like wrap this thing into a bow for the folks that are listening. So what is the future for your app right now? What is the future for it? What is your vision for it right now?
Well, my vision is, to keep it just me. I'm not looking to make a big company. I'm not looking to sell, as some people do. They build an app and then they're going to sell it and make a fortune. No, this is, part of my mission, to help people, feel better about themselves. And also I want the app to keep existing.
Hmm.
It's other apps will get bought up and they disappear, and they're not replaced with what the old app did. So yeah, the future of the app right now is just me letting people know about it
Hmm.
and bringing them into Team Accomplist. And I want to change the world, and I'm just doing it, one user at a time. And so that's the next couple of years, is just getting the word out and hopefully being able to afford to add some more features, and yeah, just being in my little hamster wheel of getting the word out.
Hmm. Okay, so that's good to know. So the folks that are listening, checking this thing out, realize that Jen got a vision for it. to get it out there to make people feel better about themselves and to track your tasks, organize them a lot more better. Hopefully in the future get to sync up with the calendar. That means you have the thing to do, then you got to do the thing that's coming up plus the thing to do to make that thing coming up more easy
Mm.
for you. Um, but now if somebody got to like, okay, Jen, I'm curious about the backstage of this work that you put this app together. No, the app is like the front stage. Things on front stage, not no. It's in the theater. But now we like, oh my God, how do you put that show together? Like, how do you put this together, the backstage piece of it? If you had to share that piece, what would you want to share?
Honestly, if someone else wanted to build their own app, I would suggest that they go to TopTal, which is short for Top Talent. They're the staffing service that I used, and they are fantastic. And that's the thing is that if you hire a freelancer who is highly skilled and pre-qualified and all that, and they'll be careful to match you with somebody, that saves you a ton of time and a lot of mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just go to people who know what they're doing. And also network. I think one thing that made a huge difference is that the brother of one of my writing clients is actually in app development. He's released stuff that has won lots of awards. And so we were able to have a conversation where he told me, okay, no, this is how you do it. You don't have them build it all at once. You have them build, a little bit at a time and until you have it where it can be released. And because they're always going to say, oh, that's 1,000 hours worth of work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we do it now. And this agile development that I got out of the game. I switched to writing when that was starting to become popular. So I didn't even know that. So I think that knowing people and getting out there so that you can talk to people who know um what they're doing and don't do that too. If sometimes it is just a matter of finding the right person. Go to SCORE, which is the Society of something something retired executives, and
Mm-hmm.
you can get for free. You can get a mentor for whatever aspect of your business that you have need help with, which I did.
Mm-hmm.
And your local small business development council will have free classes that you can attend in person or online. Um, Little seminars about whatever. One of the things that one of those seminars is why I really finally decided to not go after investment money because it was someone who was teaching us how to do investments, and he said the person who taught him, said they regretted starting a business, and because it's you start with your family investing, and he was never going to be able to pay his family back, and so he could never shut down the company and admit that he's just lost all their money, and he hated the job. So
Mm-hmm.
I thought, yeah, okay, yeah, it's debt, So I realized, that really helped me make some decisions. And there's a lot of resources like that that are free. Go to your local library and they can tell you everything, that you might want and need to know. And, for everyone, it might work a little differently, but learning to program is not necessarily step one because there are plenty of people who do that. And if you have an idea, and you have an idea how to market it, and then you can delegate, you can outsource the building of it. You don't have to do everything yourself.
Here's what I take away so far. So you mentioned when you tie into the piece of like the backstage of building your app, you just kind of taught me through like building your app is the same as using your app. Kind of like you talking about the phases, the piece by piece, the plug in the one task here, the one task there, which task comes first, which task got to work on next. And then you kind of experience the same process of when you was building your app. Like, oh, we don't need to build the whole thing at one time. We need to build it in phases, which often come back to your same to-do list process, where you still gotta do your list, the thing at one at a time. One thing I learned from when I was in the military, this one admiral was saying one thing, it was like, I have one thing that made me successful in my career. It was like, execute your last orders first. I was like, that's interesting. It was like, well, yeah, the thing that when you talk to your senior or your boss, whatever, and it says, hey, I want to get this done, blah, blah, whatever this thing is, then you don't have to complete all of it. But you start something on it and say, hey, boss, I got to this far based on the thing you already wanted, but I'm gonna need some more time. I'm gonna need some more resources to do it, blah, 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 whatever. And they're gonna feel great, like, okay, so I started a task, I didn't finish it, but I know where I'm going with this task. So I execute the last order first, put me in a spot where, okay, I'm recognized, I took it seriously. Same thing with your own task, right? If you get to execute that thing that you put on the list, maybe you already know, you know you're not going to finish it, but you start it to a place where you can actually take a break and make a decision to move to the next phase. So I get that kind of wrap up for me personally is that when you was talking about building your app, it's the same way kind of so like using your app, which we take it in phases and pieces to go forward.
Exactly. You don't know what you don't know until you start.
Hmm.
So and so many tasks, even though, I designed software, I did functional design and which is why I sat out and designed an entire app. Um, so until you actually get your feet wet and start doing it, you don't actually realize everything that's involved in it.
Hmm.
And yeah, so sometimes you do just have to dive in and get started.
Well, we're glad you get started because now it's accomplished. You get to celebrate. It is accomplished, right? It is out
Yes,
there and it's ready for people to use it. And then you get to get some live feedback from everybody that's using it, which can help you with the next phase forward as far as what you need to adjust and edit based on getting live feedback from people using it.
absolutely.
Wow, Jen. Well, this has been a educational moment for me about thinking through the idea of really building something like an app and put it out there in the world. So I appreciate you sharing your insight and your hindsight with a little bit of foresight for people to see going forward. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's been fun.
Okay. What is your biggest takeaway from this conversation?
Oh, my biggest takeaway. The diving in, the do, start what your admiral said. That,
Mm,
because yeah, I mean, it's so amazing having these conversations where things, get defined for me too. It's well,
mm,
just start it. And I'm always saying, I'll just do it imperfectly. And
mm-hmm,
just, it's better than not doing it. But yeah, you can also start doing it and then stop and, and look around and figure out, okay, what don't I know? How can I do this better? You can't pursue excellence if you're embracing imperfection 100%.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And if somebody hear you right now, oh, let me ask you this question first. So do you so in using the app actually do they need any kind of coaching for that piece or
No,
no? No?
no,
Okay.
no, because it's flexible. It's got all these different lists. You can do the getting things done system. You can do whatever. You don't have to even use the list. You can just put everything in one list.
Mm,
And, it's got that flexibility. I do have coaching. I do have one little video course that teaches people how to manage their to-do list the accomplished way. And they can do that with the app. They can also do it on paper. And it's just a new way of looking at how you do things. So that's accomplished.app. If you go there, there'll be links to the app stores, and there's a page about the coaching. I do a bigger coaching program. And so we're focusing on, your overall perfectionism and one big project. And, they can, that's there. It is,
mhm.
but the app, you can just download it and use it.
Okay, so what is the home base for your business again? What's the name of it? The home base for it?
The website is accomplished.app, and it's
Okay, Ampli.
accomplished with a T instead of an H.
Okay,
Yeah, the
okay.
.com wasn't available. It's the whole thing.
Hey, we don't, we don't need .com anymore. I'm learning from my marketing partner. It was talking about like so many things you can do with website. No, .com is not even, you don't have to put the www dot anymore on your website even, you just
Mm,
gotta go with the thing. So it's amazing how stuff has changed so much over the years. So
yeah.
cool. All right, last question for you before we close out. I ask everybody that shows up on the podcast this question because you give me a chuckle sometimes, but it tell me a lot about them as well. So, what is that one thing or two thing when people do it drive you crazy?
Oh,
Hmm.
oh, being inconsiderate of, having no situational awareness.
Hmm.
You know, being from New York, New Yorkers aren't rude. You're in the way. It's just what it is that people from other areas, non busy cities, will just walk down the street or they'll stop a group of four people right in front of the entrance to a deli, deciding and discussing whether or not to eat there. Meanwhile, I got to get back to work. I just want to go in there and get my sandwich, and you are all in the way. Uh, so that kind of thing, and noisy neighbors. Just be considerate. The reason that New York works or New York City works is that people tend to understand that there's other people around them, and you need to ignore them and let them have their thing,
Hmm.
and not be not be so loud that they're hearing you. So many of us are working from home these days, so yeah, not. not blasting the TV in the middle of the day.
Hmm.
That's nice. I like that. So people who don't do that, ooh, yeah, no, I had a noisy upstairs neighbor, stompy upstairs neighbor in New York, the last place I lived. And yeah, I've been there, gone for like 8 years, and I still hate that guy. I still am like, oh, I have so much. So yeah, it's forcing other people to listen to you and to have to walk around you.
I know it's funny. Like we got headphones now. You ain't gotta blast your music anymore. Like we
Yeah.
can all party in the same room with our own headphones on sometimes. Like, hey, no, but I understand what you're saying. It's funny. Oh my God, loud people. I start recognizing when I got older actually, because when I was young, I was loud too. I play my music loud in my car, driving around loud music in my car. I didn't know or knowing that was until I got older. I was like, God, that was me. Wow, I was making all that noise in the neighborhood for no reason. Yeah,
Yep. Youth.
youth. It's the youth.
Yes.
All right, Jen. Well, it was a pleasure getting to know you a little bit and seeing what you do, what you specialize in, how you add value to the world, and what you're doing with your gift, your specialty, building an app, organizing people. You say freelancers, those are the folks that this is gonna be really magnet for them as a beginner.
Yeah, I think it'd be good for freelancers. It's also good for people with ADD and ADHD because
Hmm.
you can put your adulting, your repeated tasks in there,
Hmm.
and people that are always forgetting things and ha need something to keep them on track,
Perfect.
but something that's gentle because if you don't do
Gentle
it,
like
you
Jen.
don't do it.
Gentle
Mhm.
like Jen.
Yes.
Awesome, Jen. Well, appreciate your generous use of your time coming on today and sharing your story. And with that, any last word before we go?
No, just everyone stay imperfect.
Hmm. With that, make it an awesome weekend.
Yeah.